Hey, good morning, guys. It's a beautiful day out today again. Um, Gotta enjoy while it lasts in Iowa, before it starts getting super hot. Anyways, today I'm just gonna here to talk about like running form. So this is like one of those concepts that I just find, it's kind of unique. It's very niche. Um, but we're just gonna kind of get into it. So first of all, just like a quick recap. Last week I ran 87 miles in total. I ran Monday through Saturday, took Sunday off. Um, and I actually had some pretty good speed sessions. So on Tuesday I did my track workout, and I was able to do 5 by 1200 with 400 meters of jogging recovery in between, and all of those 1200s were done at sub 6 minute pace. Then on Friday I did a tempo run. I did a mile warm up at around 7:44, and then I did like a little over 6 miles at like a 6:17 pace, and then like a mile cool down. And then as far as the rest of the running, all of it, even my easy runs were actually pretty at a pretty decent pace. So a lot of my easy runs were actually at around like 7:30 pace or faster. So overall, I'd say it was a really good week, and you know, yeah. So I just kind of want to talk about running form. So I will say the first thing is everyone kind of runs differently. So running form is just one of those things where it's kind of weird because first of all, I don't really think there's such thing as having perfect running form, but there are a lot of things you can do to improve it, and that's kind of what I'm going to get into today. Um, so really, the first thing is like when you first start running, I actually wouldn't really. You actually don't want to worry too much about your form because it's your first time running. So just kind of run like however you're gonna run, and then if you can get a video of it, great. Even then, if you have someone who's running with you and someone who could just kind of watch your feet, even like your arms and your posture, then that way you can kind of give an idea. Okay, like this is how I naturally run, at least like starting out. Um, I will say, when it comes to form, having better form and technique is really going to help with injury prevention. It's going to help like build your endurance better because by having better form, you'll be able to run longer without really feeling pain. Um, and if you don't have the best technique, then yeah, you're going to feel more pain. You're going to feel more, pain in your joints, in your muscles. But when you're first starting out, I wouldn't worry too much about it because the main thing is like you're just trying to get an idea of like, okay, this is how I run, and then after doing that for a while, then you could take a look and say, okay, what can I improve here? How can I make my form better? Is my form already naturally pretty good? But I wouldn't worry about it starting out. Then the next thing is like there are a couple of metrics you could pay attention to. So for me, I actually met with a physical therapist, and he's really good. His name's Shane. He works at Des Moines University, and he told me one of the things to pay attention to when it comes to running form is to look at your cadence. So I use an Apple Watch. I know a lot of people will use when it comes to running watches like Garmin or whatever. They're not fully 100% accurate when it comes to like all of the data, but when it comes to like the pace and some of those metrics like your cadence, ground contact time, um, elevation gain, stride length, vertical oscillation, I would say most of those are pretty accurate. The only one I'd say is like not I would really not trust at all is the heart rate, and we'll get into that in a separate video. But other than that, like, your pace, it's going to be pretty accurate for the most part, and same thing with your cadence. So I would say, really, yeah. So he really told me just kind of focus on that cadence. And what he did actually was like, I never run the treadmill, but he put me on the treadmill, and, he played like a metronome.
Metro Boomin, want some more, nigga.
And I think it was like 170 beats per minute or whatever. And he's like, try to match, like, just kind of getting that rhythm, like, each beat, and kind of like that's when you should be landing. And it's totally different running outside as compared to doing on the treadmill. But I guess that kind of just got me started because I noticed for like a lot of my runs, kind of like before I met with the physical therapist, you know, my cadence, like once I started paying attention to it, it was like, it wasn't very good. So it was in like, I think like the mid to like high 160s. The other thing is when it comes to your cadence, there is going to be variation. It depends on a lot of different factors. like your height, your weight, your stride length, how long your legs are. Um, but the main thing is like, there everyone's ideal cadence is going to vary, and your ideal cadence is also going to vary on the pace based on the pace that you're running at. But there are things you can do to improve it, and that's really one of the biggest things when it comes to your running form is just simply improving your cadences. That already kind of like, will solve most of your problems. So I would say for me, like I said, cadence is going to vary for everyone, but my cadence for most of my runs, even going at like, a 7:30 pace, it wasn't very good, and it was in like the like the mid to high 160s. And really the key thing is like, you don't want to obsess about it,
And I was like, why are you so obsessed with me?
but just kind of like, really paying attention, just feeling smooth. A lot of people talking about like avoiding heel striking. So when you land and your feet lands, you want it to land on like your midfoot or even your forefoot, but you really don't want to land on your heels. And I would say like, it's something that just kind of happens over time. So kind of just by like paying attention to that and just really, my key was like, I just wanted to feel smooth. So I guess like when you're heel striking or when your cadence is lower, it indicates overstriding, and also it's just going to feel rougher. And so that being said, if you go out on a run, let's just say even 5-6 miles, like you're probably going to like just feel like your knees are going to start to hurt, and it's just not going to feel as smooth. But simply just by focusing on improving that cadence, that just really helped me a lot, and just like really feeling like more smooth, having that rhythm, and that helped a lot. That really helped me build up better endurance, especially as I did like longer runs. And I would say, like I said, it's going to be different for everyone because your ideal cadence is going to vary on the pace and also on other factors such as your height and your weight. So for me, even when I'm running at a slower pace, like an 8:30 pace, I kind of want my cadence to be in the low 170s. And then if it's like, maybe 7:30, around that range, I would say kind of low to mid 170s. And then once you start getting under like sub 7-minute pace, 6:30 pace, you're going to want to be like more that higher 170s, 180s. And it just kind of keeps going from there. And I will say in terms of some of my races, you have the super shoes. So that it's really interesting. My PR half marathon was 1 hour 17 minutes 25 seconds. So that's a 5:54 pace for 13.1 miles. And my cadence, I looked at my watch, was like 184. So overall, it's not really something to obsess about, but definitely just by focusing on like the little things, just like feeling smoother, really trying to land on that, that midfoot. And you can kind of tell because, you'll feel just more choppy if you're just like landing on your heels. One more thing is, this one's kind of tough, but it is possible to have too high of a cadence for a certain pace, which really is going to mean shorter, choppier strides. But there's a much higher chance of you overstriding than understriding. So I would just keep that in mind. And then even when it comes to like the pros, as you could tell, like Eliud Kipchoge is going to have really good form, really good posture. Even when it comes to the pros, there's going to be variations. So Eliud Kipchoge's cadence during his world record, or at the time, 2 hour, 1 minute, 9 seconds in Berlin, was around 186 steps per minute, but he's running at a 4:37 pace or whatever. And, it says right here that when Eliud Kipchoge during his training is running anywhere between a 7 to 8 minute pace, his cadence is going to be 172. Also, I'm a big fan of Kelvin Kiptum. Apparently, during his world record, the Chicago Marathon, 2 hours and 35 seconds, his cadence was 195. So clearly his cadence was significantly higher than Kipchoge. And this kind of allowed Kelvin Kiptum, his form was unique. It really just allowed him to have some insane negative splits because he ran the second half of that race in 59 minutes and 47 seconds. And in terms of the mileage he was doing, like running up to 186 miles a week, it's part of the reason his form is so good because, he really, really, he didn't break down towards the end of the race, and he actually finished faster than he started. So it's just kind of interesting to think about that. But in this short clip here, it's going to just explain how, even during that world record marathon, during one of his faster miles, his cadence was higher. as compared to one of his slower miles where his cadence was a little bit lower.
When he was running at a lower cadence, he was running at one of his slowest splits at a 440 minute per mile pace. Then, during the higher cadence, he was running at one of his quicker splits at a 433 minute per mile pace. People try to follow a particular cadence when they run, however, your optimal cadence can be different at different paces.
So overall, the key thing is definitely working on the cadence is going to help. You kind of want to have a little bit of a forward lean, not like excessive, but like if you look down, that's actually can be good because you're moving forward. So, you want to be upright and you want to have good posture, but like having kind of a little bit of a forward lean is really going to help propel you to run faster. The shoes you wear also makes a big difference. So I used to kind of just run with like Nike shoes, but they don't really offer the best support. And one thing you could do is, it's kind of funny, I'll show you real quick, is you could kind of just like bend your shoe, and if it could just basically bend in half, then that already will tell you that it's not the best shoe for running, at least, if you're doing higher.
No, I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
Level training. So I went to fitness sports and they were able to hook me up. They even did a little test with heat sensors, and they got me a pair of Brooks training shoes. I wear that for all my runs. And then I have a pair of Saucony super shoes with the carbon plated, sole or whatever. And those I only will wear for races. And that's really going to be specific to half marathons and full marathons. And I would say, that's really about it. I mean, really improving your cadence, that's going to help a lot. I guess you don't want to have too much lateral motion, so you want to be kind of running straight for the most part. And yeah, running form is one of those things where, it's unique. Everyone is going to run differently. But at the end of the day, you just got to find what's going to work for you. And I would say it's honestly not the biggest thing you should really worry about when it comes to training, but definitely just kind of by fixing, some little things here and there, it's going to help you tremendously with your running. And even if you're someone who's not trying to run competitively, like me, even if you're just kind of doing it for fun and just, to help maintain good cardiovascular fitness, I would still work on your form a little bit, because the thing is, you're just going to feel better. And, I would say, a lot of people will complain about, oh, I'm having pain, and, I don't know if I can keep running. I mean, I enjoyed it, but I'm just feeling so much pain. But, by improving your running form, you're going to enjoy it more, and at least I think, and you're going to feel less pain too. So that's really all I got for today, and I hope you guys, enjoyed that. I hope you learned something from this. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.